Okay, with it being 2 o'clock, I'll go ahead and call the City Design Review Board meeting to order. Everyone was emailed and mailed a packet of the minutes of last month's meeting on November 13th. Everyone have a chance to review those. If you did, any changes or amendments need to be made? If not, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the second on the agenda is the approval of the 2025 meeting calendar. And the dates are up there on the screen if it's not on your agenda.
Yeah, I thought of this last minute after I sent you all your packets. But this is the typical second Wednesday of every month.
And I did check it. There's no national holidays or any bank holidays on there, so
No
I'm
Flag
good to go.
Day, no.
Dave and I think there's a real estate holiday in there somewhere. We're not sure.
Motion to approve as submitted.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting calendar is set. Our first case for public hearing today is a request for, it's DRB 2024-24. It's a request for a certificate of appropriateness to approve the view on the Behringer townhouses identified at Florence County Tax Map Number 901-03-01-005, located in the D1 Redevelopment Overlay District. Staff?
Good afternoon. The applicants are seeking a COA to construct 10 townhouse units, and this is on a 1-acre lot that is bordered by Behringer, South Church, and East Pine Streets, and it is in the D1 Redevelopment Overlay District. Here it is, and here's an up close. It's kind of an unusual parcel because it is bordered on 3 sides by streets. And the applicants recently had it rezoned from planned development to NC 6.3, which does permit the townhouses. So here it still shows it as the planned development zoning, but it has been rezoned by City Council. And it's all brand new construction, and the townhouses will be clad in wood accent siding and gray ephes. You'll see those elevations in just a moment. It's a modern, architecturally a modern style, so it's a little bit different from anything around it. But because it is a distinct parcel, there's nothing immediately adjacent to it, it seemed kind of appropriate to put it there. So this is the layout for it. They will have to go to get sketch plan approval from Planning Commission because each of these townhouse units is on a separate parcel. And they are intending to have these for sale, not just for rent. So, but this is the layout. What's considered the front is facing Behringer Street, and then the backs of the units are facing Pine Street and Church Street. These are the elevations. So this is what you would be seeing if you're on Pine Street or Church Street. Technically, it's the rear of the parcels because those are sliding glass doors on the ground floor. There are roof patios up on the top level, and then this would be more what you would see from Behringer Street. The inside, you would see the garage doors, you would see the front doors, and they're going to have some nice signage, and it'll be a circular drive that then accesses each individual driveway, and each unit has an in-unit garage as well as on-site parking. So each unit will have room for 2 cars. This is the interior elevation and the side elevation as well. As you can see, it's very different from what we're used to in the historic districts. And then these are some inspiration photos. There's the wooden siding and the ephes siding. And this is the style of garage door and entry door, and then the patio that would be up on the rooftops. And then those have a bit of a trellis over top them. So that concludes staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff? Or the patio shared, or is it just?
Each unit has its own.
Okay.
And then there will be some open shared space at the intersection of Church and Pine. They would like to eventually put a water feature, some benches, kind of a common area.
Guest parking?
Each unit would have would have space, and then there would be some space for guests along the driveway. It's not specifically laid out, but it looks like it would be available.
Any other questions of staff? Anyone here to speak on the matter? Having no one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll open it up for a request or a nomination. Issues, concerns?
Mike, have you had any involvement? Obviously not.
No, nobody's
Any
approached me about
thoughts
that.
on it?
It is, I mean, it looks a little different than the norm around here, but I don't think that's necessarily bad. I mean, it's probably serving the hospital market over there, being where it's at. It will certainly be an improvement to the area.
Right.
I'm not so hung up on it being different. I think that would look good. I don't think it'll substantially change the character of the neighborhood or anything like that. So I don't really see it. It's basically downtown. I mean, it's close enough that it's downtown. So I don't see an issue with it.
And it's the same company. They've done a few houses on West Sumter Street. If you've noticed, there's a couple more modern looking houses along there. This is the same company.
Are there any landscaping plans? Or?
Yes, they will have to meet the UDO for landscaping as well.
And will they, I assume they will have to submit a parking plan for additional parking in the drive showing those spaces?
They're only required to show 2 per unit, and they are showing that. I believe there might be, is there on-street parking on that little bit of East Pine?
I don't think so, but they are showing, I mean, it does have each unit has a garage and then one parking space outside of the garage for surface parking. And we had talked to them about potentially allowing for some areas in here for a couple of guest parks as well. I think they incorporated 1 on each side. So I think there are two guest parking spaces as it stands.
The townhomes, so they're exempt from the ADA requirements for any kind of handicap parking or anything like that.
That's correct, because they're single-family attached housing.
Correct. Yep.
Make a motion we approve as submitted.
Mr. Millen has a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Certificate will be issued. Congratulations. Our last case to hear today and our last case for the year, DRB 2024-25, is a request for a certificate of appropriateness to approve the duplex development to be located at 151 East Pine Street, identified at Florence County Tax Map number 90087-05-002 in the D3 Arts and Culture Overlay District. Staff?
All right. This certificate of appropriateness is to approve Phase 2 of the Pine Street development. Phase 1, which involved townhouses, was approved in 2021 and is currently under construction. And this phase involved 5 two-unit buildings on a single parcel. So because it's zoned central business district, duplexes technically are not permitted in that, but because they're all on a single lot, they are considered multifamily. So here it is. It's a narrow parcel between Railroad Avenue and the railroad along West or East Pine Street. And the new townhouses are going up directly across the street, and you'll see a photo of those in a moment. And it is zoned Central Business District. Again, this is new construction. The primary materials proposed will be red brick and smooth stucco. It'll match the townhouses that were already approved, as I said, back in 2021. On-site landscaping will be provided, And the ordinance does require a plaza or other outdoor area, so they are going to add a small seating area to, since it's considered multifamily, to accommodate that requirement. And even though it's a central business district, which does not require off-street parking, they are providing, I believe it's 11 parking spots. This is the site plan. The larger buildings, units 1, 2, and 3, have each has a 2-bedroom unit on the ground floor and a 2-bedroom unit on the second floor, so they're over under. And then units 4 and 5, which are right up against the railroad, are 1-bedroom units, one over the other, for a total of 10 units. And they will be providing fencing around the perimeter. The backyard, the interior parcels, property lines will have the privacy fence, and then the road frontage will have the brick and wrought iron fencing. So that is in keeping with the requirements of the ordinance. These are the elevations for, this is unit 1, this is the one at the very corner, and again, it's 2-bedroom units. And this is unit 2, which is in the middle there, and it's slightly different, but has the same articulation of windows and doors and the same materials. And then unit 3, which is the northernmost unit along Railroad, has a slightly different roof line. And then the 2 units on the interior with the 2 1-bedroom units will look the same. But those will be the interior. Those will provide a bit of a buffer against the railroad line itself. These are some of the materials that they'll be using, but again, they'll be complementary to the townhouses that are already going up across the street. And these are those townhouses, so you can see what it would look like. So that concludes staff's report. And we do have the representative here if you have questions for him.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of staff? Anyone here to speak on the matter?
Well, I am.
Okay. Y'all have any questions for him?
So I'm the
Okay.
developer on both the.
Okay. If you want to come up here to the mic and state your name.
I'm Jesse Wiles, so the owner of Urban Development Services. So we're doing, as the staff mentioned, we're doing the phase 1, is what we call it, the 6 townhouses across that at the corner of Pine and Railroad, and then we acquired this lot about a year ago, actually December of 2023, and would like to do the development that you just mentioned. Basically to kind of give some balance to the corridor. This whole thing is designed to look like it all fits together as one master plan development. So phase 3 and 4 are the vacant lots further, I guess that would be east toward Dargan Street. They would be also townhouses that would be very similar to what we're building in phase 1.
Anyone have any questions for him? Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for discussion or a motion.
You said duplexes are not allowed?
Yeah, they're not allowed in the central business district, which is considered a much more dense and intense residential district. So I think that's why, according to the chart in the UDO, they're not permitted, but multifamily is. And since these are not on distinct lots, they're not considered single-family attached, which is what a duplex technically is. And they will be rentals, correct?
You have 2 more phases?
Yes, they were, would that be east here?
Be west.
West. Yeah, west. There's some large vacant land in the Winter block of Pine Street closer to Target that will be subsequently building townhouses there that would be similar to the townhouses that we're building now. They will be for sale.
motion to approve as submitted.
We have a motion, second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Congratulations, certificate be issued. So try a piece of property. Okay, now we will have the presentation of our draft design guidelines by Bolton and Mink.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorna Allen. I'm with Bolton and Mink, and I'm joined by my colleagues Chris Chalkley and Blake Sanders, who's with Studio Maine. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present to y'all's board this afternoon. Today, I'm going to do essentially what is called a page turn through the design guidelines. What we've been doing over the past several months is adapting the guidelines that you all have been working from, as I just saw on your last two cases, and bringing some more visual elements into them, giving them a little bit more structure and organization, and also kind of providing more guidance on your review process. So the intent is once you all adopt these standards, you will have a thorough document that will allow users such as developers, staff, yourselves, the public to be able to find information very quickly and efficiently and have guidance in the document that provides visuals. Also included in this document that's a little bit different is a glossary of terms as well. So, like I said, we'll just do a quick page flip. We have submitted the draft to staff, so that will be made available to the public shortly as well. But essentially, the first spread of the document lays out the intent of the document. Also, it acknowledges the funding through the U.S. Department of the Interior. As well as the way it's organized. So first and foremost is Florence by design, as we tell it, but it's really tying back to why you all find guidance for guidelines very important to your community, your design principles, the things that you want to see across the entirety of your downtown community, and starting to outline the various districts. The process is really your governance and how within the city's organization, the different departments and boards are arranged and whose responsibilities these guidelines are to oversee, such as yourselves, and then also the review and the submittal process. And then the standards, which is the meat of the document, which is organized into three sections, which focus on first the site, the conditions that you would have to adhere to based on different site components, the building, and then how it interacts with the public realm. So as I mentioned before, we get into the background. We make sure that everyone's on the same page, so to speak, of the reason for standards and keeping up with standards and why they need to be updated. We're recommending that you all crack this open every 5 years or so just to make sure that you're staying on trend with building technologies, other ordinances that you may update throughout the community, and just community desires as well as architectural styles changes and that so forth. So this document also is very intentional with aligning with your adopted policy and plans, such as your UDO, your comprehensive plan, and your 2030 downtown master plan. Also included, that's something that we pulled through from your previous guidelines, would be these design principles. These are intended to be applied across the community. These are kind of like the backbone of this document, meaning that these should be visited and be applicable throughout downtown. Something that is different with this document than your previous documents is the introduction of tiers. The reason for that is to reduce repetitiveness in your guidelines so that we don't have to go to every single district and see things mentioned multiple times. So within tiers, the approach is that each tier would have a level of guidelines that you would have to adhere to, and more specific tiers that hold districts such as the historic district or the Timrod Park district would have specific guidance for those tiers. This allows us to kind of have fewer places to go and look for information. And so we've organized it across 5 tiers for 7 districts. One thing that we've also done too is through this process is kind of clean up some of the data from a GIS perspective that we'll be handing back over to the city staff as it pertains to the boundaries of all of the districts, so that when you look at different parcels, you don't have overlapping districts. So that has been part of this process as well. Next is the review process. So this is overseen by you all, of course, as well as staff. We have provided a kind of flow chart that gives you a step-by-step process for reviews, whether it may be a minor project or a major project, and the path in which you should take to have your plans reviewed, starting with a pre-submittal meeting. This section also includes your general application requirements, site plan requirements, elevation requirements, and any additional requirements in order to obtain that certificate of appropriateness. Also included in this section is guidance on what type of project or proposed work would warrant a minor or major project by category. So most of these are outlined here based on whether they're minor or major, and whether they would need staff approval if they're minor, or if they're major, would need the DRB approval. This is kind of one of those other things that, as I was mentioning, every 5 years you want to crack this open and amend. You may want to add other elements to this list as well, as things change, or you see that you may have need for more guidance. This would be one of those things that you might want to update regularly. The next section is the standards section, and what we have done, as I mentioned, is set up a guiding framework for you. It's broken into 3 sections. One, the public realm, which is essentially everything from between buildings and buildings. So within the street, your sidewalks, your street trees, all of those things. We felt it was important to include it in this document so that you, when you all are working on projects, whether they be private or public or P3, there is an expectation for the type of environment in the public realm that you're hoping to achieve. Next is the site design, and it's essentially, as you all know, how a building fits within a site, what that frontage is along a primary and secondary streets, side yard, rear yard, setbacks, step backs, all of those elements are included within the site design. And then lastly is the building design, which is largely guided by the character of each of the tiers and their districts. So really leaning in heavily to the character, so you will have a better defining elements to lean on once you're making your decisions. Within site design, this section covers your frontage types, as I just mentioned, your primary and secondary, and what to do when you have multiple frontages, such as what you just approved on the last project. Building placement, whether you have residential setbacks, non-residential build-to lines, build-to percentages, as well as your building height, and what to do when you have 2 tiers that abut each other. What in that scenario happens, what the height step-backs do, and what the rear and side step-backs do. And in each of these sections, you'll note that we have included charts at the throughout that kind of indicate what you do within each tier in each district. Also included in site design is open space, requirements by tier, public on-site open space types that would be permissible within each of the tiers, as well as outdoor dining, whether it be on-site within the public right-of-way, and also general requirements and standards. Screening would include just general standards, how to screen for parking, utilities, and the type of materials expected, as well as landscape and stormwater, whether it's being dealt with, how it's being dealt with on-site, and best practices, as well as parking on street, surface structured, shared, and various parking requirements by tier. Have this in here. Again, just to show you that we have included as well different diagrams. It's a little bit of a departure from your previous standards to show expectations for different types of parking configurations. Next up is building design. As I mentioned, these are largely defined by district character, the type of buildings and eras of buildings that you find throughout your districts, and expectations based on massing, scale, materiality, and elements. One thing that we've done a little differently in this section is, excuse me, we've broken down building types, knowing that you do have various building types throughout your districts. So we've broken them into non-residential development and residential development. Non-residential development and residential development within that has two sub-tiers for rehabilitation and new buildings or additions. So that way you know exactly where to go and you don't have to sift through kind of multiple levels of information. And those elements include everything from storefronts to security to everything that happens on the roofs with dormers, cornices, windows, shutters, materials, and paint colors as well. And similarly for new buildings as well, provided guidance on expectations for those elements, including a diagram of a newer building in your downtown community to help people identify different terminology, as well as a table to explain within which tier which elements are appropriate and materiality. And moving forward, residential design is the other half of that building section, and again, these are split into rehabilitation and new and addition projects. And again, these include, the reason for doing that is because residential construction includes different types of elements such as porches and balconies, chimneys, and so forth that you don't typically get in non-residential. Also in this section gets into light fixtures and other more specific residential elements. And then again, we have new construction for residential buildings, which also include accessory structures and how they should relate to the primary structure. And those could include anything from garages to outbuildings and so forth. And then additionally, we would like to provide you all with some guidance for franchise architecture. We're seeing this more and more in downtown communities, seeing good examples of it, where there is really good guidance of how it's being integrated into the existing fabric. So we'd like to guide future franchise architecture in that way so that it fits within each of the districts seamlessly, as well as drive-throughs. Making sure that those are nicely tied into the site and the building and not impeding pedestrian flow or obstructing views or anything like that, that it's kind of something that is well thought out and thought through. Also in the building section are signs. This section contains permitted sign types, prohibited sign types, what to do when you have historic signage that may not be attached to an existing building anymore or business, advertising signage, and as well as what to do with maintenance to keep signs in good shape. And our last section is the public realm. This really just helps kind of crystallize how buildings and sites should interact with the public realm to create a successful downtown. Starting at the largest scale, which are your blocks. Here in Florence, your blocks are around 650 by 650, which is a little bit on the big side, but one of the things that you all do really well here are provide those pedestrian cut-throughs between your blocks to get to parking or the back sides of buildings or other amenities. So this kind of formalizes that as a way of, future development comes in a larger scale. You want to make sure that you get those opportunities to provide that access in mid-block. Streets, start to talk about street character, the street elements, as well as the various infrastructure that goes into making streets, such as your trees and your furnishings, sidewalk pavement, so on and so forth, and expectations for development to meet those so that front doors are opening into the public realm and you have safe connections. This section also addresses pedestrian infrastructure, bicycle infrastructure, how development should face and front these various uses, public spaces, so parks and plazas, your pocket parklets, as well as best practices and general standards for those, as well as an industry term called placemaking, which just really includes all of the wonderful things that add that extra layer of character to your community, like banners, public art, installations, wayfinding. So this gives a formality to that, and also identifies who the acting board is, whether it be you all or the Downtown Development Corporation, who would be responsible for overseeing that piece of it. And as I mentioned before, we've included a full glossary of terms as well to make sure that there is clarity as much as possible in the document. So I'm just going to pause because that was a lot of information. And I did mention it is a page turn, and you all will get an opportunity to crack it open and go through it in quite a bit of detail. But is it okay if I ask if they have any questions before I jump forward? Okay. Crystal clear?
So far, so good.
All right. Well, you all will get a chance to sift through it, and I'm very interested in your thoughts. So as I mentioned, we are at the tail end of the very long process where we have, reviewed all of your materials. We've done some public engagement, and we're working towards our final kind of deliverables with this project, which will include that draft document and revisions, as well as a training workshop that we're going to be doing with staff starting in next year. We've got to get that scheduled, as well as finalizing that for the presentation and submittal. But most importantly, tonight we have our final public meeting, and we will be doing a very similar presentation to that I just gave you all. We will also have information boards set up around this room, and the consultant team as well as staff will be there to answer questions for the public. We will have a public review of the draft. It will be available on the city's website, as well as hard copies will be made available here at the City Center. All right.
Well, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
No questions. I do like the way the document flows a lot better than what we do have presently. So
Thank you.
thanks for y'all's time with it, and I think that's going to be a lot better going forward.
All right.
Okay. Jerry or Eileen, y'all have any?
What's the process?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just procedurally, any amendments to the design guidelines, because it's part of the zoning code, ultimately has to go through Planning Commission and City Council for adoption. It makes the most sense for it to go through the Design Review Board first. So that's why I think it's important to get a copy for you guys to review and look at, and we'll schedule that as soon as possible at one of your regularly scheduled meetings to vote on that, or to recommend that to move forward. And once we're in that state, then it'll proceed on to Planning Commission and City Council as soon as possible for adoption. So it'll take a little bit, it takes a few months to get something pushed through, but we want it right when we move it forward. So
Yeah, well, thanks, Jerry. Okay, anyone have any questions or any concerns? Hearing none, I wish y'all all a very, very Merry Christmas, and thank you for your time, and we will see you on January 8th at 2 p.m. We're adjourned.